Hi everyone. This video is a book review about a book that I bought at the thrift store about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the title of this book is Crystal Love: How to Use the Earth's Magic Energy to Fill Your Life with Love. And it was written by Connie Church, who is the author of Crystal Clear. I found this book when I went to the religious section of the thrift store. Usually if I want to find anything related to metaphysics, that's where I go. They're usually interwoven in with the other books. So I decided to read this book because I felt it was needed at this point in my life as I'm transitioning into a new life. This book focuses on the rose quartz crystal and how you can use it for emotional healing and also to amplify the love in your life. So before I get started on the book review, let me tell you a little bit about the author. It says Connie Church is the author of the best-selling Crystal Clear, which is about the quartz crystal. She has co-authored several books, and her articles covering a wide range of interests including health, beauty, fashion, psychology, metaphysics, have appeared in national magazines and newspapers across the country. Connie Church has been working with crystals for many years. So I tried to find more information about this lady online, but all I could find was her birthday and the 2 books that she's written. I don't know if she's still writing or if she's still living. I don't know what happened to her. She doesn't have a website, but this is her second book. I think this was a pretty good book. It was very short. It had nice little illustrations. The illustrations were done by this woman named Penelope Gottlieb. It's either Gottlieb or Gottlieb. And it's just black and white illustrations. This book was published in 1988, so 1 year before I was born. And I don't know if the original book came with a rose quartz crystal, because she mentions if you have this book in your crystal. So maybe I'm assuming if this was in a crystal shop or a metaphysical store that it would be in an area with the rose quartz crystal. I have my own rose quartz crystal. I actually used to have 63 crystals and I lost them before I moved to Hawaii and then moved back. But I just bought this one and it is a rose quartz heart. In the background, I have one of my paintings, which I feel relates to this book. It is called Her. It is based off of the Adam and Eve story and how you can, I guess, keep yourself from feeling love from another person or keep yourself from self-love. So this will be in the background. Now let us get started on the book. As I said, this book is rather short. It is literally under 110 pages. It has 106 pages. And everything is in black and white. There's no color. It just has basic plain illustrations, hand-drawn. The book begins with the author talking about how she came to work with the rose quartz crystal. So she was going through some type of emotional trials and she decided to go see a crystal healer. She had already written about quartz crystal, but she didn't have experience with, or I'm assuming, with all types of crystals. Because if you work with crystals, you know each crystal has their own resonance. It has their own energy. It's related to it has certain traits. So you can program a crystal to work with you for anything, but certain crystals are designated for certain emotions. Like you might use a black crystal for protection or banishing. You might use a green crystal for healing or for feeling connection to the earth. So she had an experience where her and her husband had a 2-month separation, and she visited this crystal healer named Zoe Artemis. And Zoe laid all of the crystals on her and had an entire grid. And she asked her which crystal basically resonated with her. And she pointed at a large rose quartz crystal on the center of her chest. And it says, Zoe smiled. I never cease to be amazed by the power of these stones. You've picked the rose quartz crystal, which is also known as the love stone, after what you have just shared with me about a part of your life that has already been resolved. It is important that you work on forgiving yourself and loving yourself. Now, the rose quartz crystal, I guess until recently, was actually not one of my favorite crystals. I liked it, but the reason it wasn't one of my favorite crystals was because whenever I would go to the metaphysical store, after your purchase, they have a jar. They have a jar of crystals, and you reach in and you choose a crystal. Like, you don't look, you just choose. And that is what crystal you are supposed to have. And over the course of time, I just kept getting rose quartz. It wasn't because there was so much rose quartz in the jar. It was just because I needed rose quartz at the time. I was receiving rose quartz because I needed to work with self-love, which is something that I have a difficult time with. And I began to just disassociate from the rose quartz crystal. I'm like, I don't want to see this crystal ever again. I can't stand rose quartz. But that's what I needed at the time. As far as the one time I did feel an experience with the rose quartz was when I was dating my ex, who I dated for 6 years. And in the beginning of our dating, we were holding hands and we had a rose quartz crystal in both of our hands. And that was the first time I felt energy from a crystal. Like, there was so much love. You could actually feel the crystal pulsating in both of our hands. It was absolutely incredible. So it is a very powerful stone. The first chapter is called The Romance of the Stone. And she basically tells about the ancient uses of rose quartz. So she states that in ancient Kemet, it was valued as a stone of love and beauty, and that the Kemetic people and the Romans used rose quartz to prevent wrinkles, improve the texture of the skin, and enhance the complexion. They also had facial masks that were carved out of rose quartz that they would lay on you in your tomb so that you could have even more beauty in the afterlife, which I thought was pretty cool. If you're a person that practices spells, you'll notice that in a lot of beauty spells, rose quartz will show up if you're trying to increase your attraction and everything. You also might get red jasper, but rose quartz is definitely a crystal that will appear. It says that when you squeeze the crystal, it produces small electrical charges that vibrate with a positive and negative energy field, which makes sense because crystals are used in a lot of things. You use them in computers to power your computer and among other things. So I believe in the power of crystals, and if you are someone that's never tried crystals or worked with it, you should try it and see how it makes you feel. This crystal necklace I'm wearing is opalite. It's a man-made stone, and this was made by my coworker who makes jewelry. So it says, before you begin, that is chapter number 2. Or is it before you begin? It's care for your crystal. Okay. In chapter 2, she teaches you how to care for your crystal. Instead of calling it crystal in this book, she calls it love stone. So in this part it says, caring for your love stone. And if you want to follow along, you can. So it says, in your right hand, this is my right hand, hold your love stone between your thumb and index finger. Oops. Okay, it's too big. Turn on the faucet and allow the cool tap water to bathe it for about 1 minute. So you hold it under your faucet. Imagine that the water is running through your love stone as well as over it, washing it clean of any energy it absorbed on its journey to you. Imagine that as the old energy washes out of your love stone, it goes down the drain and is diluted into nothingness. The process only takes a minute, but you may continue it longer until you feel that your love stone is absolutely clear. You can also do a cleansing that's even more intense. You can do a once a week super cleaning. So you can mix a teaspoon of salt into a cup of water and allow your stone to soak from 10 minutes to 7 days. You can also burn your crystal or bury your crystal in a cup of sea salt for 3 hours to 7 days. And after you finish this, you always rinse the crystal with water. Now, I would research these methods before you do it because some crystals do not react well to salt. There's some crystals you can place in salt. There's some that you cannot. There's some that you can place in water, and there's others that you can't. There's even ones that you can place in the sun and others that you just shouldn't place in the sun because it can damage the crystal. So before you do that, make sure that these methods will not, damage your crystal or make its color fade or destroy it or anything. Then she mentions how to connect with your crystal. And you can do this in various ways. One is meditating with it. You can carry it with you if you have a bag. You can put it on your office desk, or you can just sit with it for 10 minutes if you wish, 10 minutes to an hour. You can put it under your pillow to sleep with. She emphasizes that you don't want another person to touch your love stone, which makes sense because I believe the same rules go for the mala, chanting prayer beads. You don't want another person to touch it because it can alter the energy. So if somebody does touch your crystal, you have to do another cleansing again. But I think just sitting with your crystal in silence for 5 to 10 minutes a day is a good way to connect with it. I have a friend who had a large carnelian. It was like this big, a chunk of carnelian, raw carnelian. He's in Chicago studying acupuncture. And he says that he would sit with his crystal for 30 minutes and he could feel the energy coming from the crystal. He could also feel his blood heating up. It was something about the fire of that stone that helped heat up his body. He did this during the winter months when it was very, very cold. Next chapter, she talks about it's in the same chapter. So when you want to receive love, when you're doing your meditation, when you want to receive love, you hold your crystal in your left hand. When you want to send love, you hold it in your right hand. For me, my right hand is my dominant hand. So I don't know if you are not comfortable, I feel more comfortable sending love with my dominant hand. Just use your dominant hand. When you're sending, use your dominant hand. When you're receiving, use your non-dominant hand. Because some people are, left-handed, so they're used to their dominant hand being their left hand. Anyway. Then she talks about unconditional love. I'm just flipping to the chapters that I feel would be relevant for most people. So chapter 5 is about developing self-love, which, as I mentioned, is something that I have a hard time with. It says, before you can have a happy, satisfying, and fulfilling relationship with someone else, whether it be lover, spouse, child, parent, sibling, or friend, you must develop self-love. And I know this is a broken record, but it is so true, and I hate saying it because I feel like I sound like a broken record saying this. But if you don't have self-love, you're just going to screw yourself over. You're going to attract relationships that are not good for you, toxic relationships. You're going to attract toxic situations, or you might not have a toxic situation. You might have a beautiful partner or a beautiful situation and you ruin it because of self-sabotage. You feel as if you don't deserve this love because of all of the trauma you've gone through. I am in that current state right now, just developing self-love, because over the years I let people get into my ear, and also things from childhood, like or my education, just going to a school that had racism in its curriculum, that kind of affected my self-esteem. College with my art and the spirit of competition affected my self-esteem. So sometimes I'll go through my thing like, my art isn't good enough. My art, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about like anything I create, just based off of how people treated my work. Like I would donate a painting to someone. I donated a painting to like 3 or 4 places. One place put my painting in a corner. One place put books on top of my paintings. One put it in the storage. And one put it in a shelf like with things on top of it where it could get damaged. Or overlooking my work, or saying I'm trying to outshine somebody else, or even having just criticism, like being people saying, oh, when you get a real book, or when you get a real website. I'm like, I have a real website, I made it myself, I have a real book, you can buy it online. Like, so that really impacted my self-esteem. Some people, like, you might have self-esteem with how you look or the type of career field you have. Somebody might have made fun of you for like your size, like you're too big, or you're too skinny, or you're not curvy enough, or you're too dark, or you're too light, or just ridiculous things. A lot of people that have self-esteem issues will project their self-esteem issues onto you, or they might be threatened by you and your success, and they have to use it to tear you down. That's why you see a lot of beautiful men and women in toxic relationships with people where you're like, you're out of their league, but these people got into their ear to break them down, to bring them down to their level. So I'm sorry if I'm going on a splurge, but I feel this is a message that you may need to hear. When you develop self-love, that urge, that yearning to get it from somebody else diminishes. Right now I'm at a point where I'm actually okay. I'm becoming okay with myself. In the past, I used to just yearn for this love to complete me. Love from a male, or a romantic relationship, or a friendship. And now that I'm by myself and I just have me, it's caused me to go inward, self-reflect, and really speak life into my own soul. If you're a person that works with deities, I would work with the deity Kuan Yin. This is my Kuan Yin snow globe. And Kuan Yin, she represents compassion. She hears the cries of the world. Another deity, if you're working into deity, is the Christ consciousness, Jesus Christ. He represents unconditional love. So you can place these symbols around your home or carry them with you. Reflect on these symbols with your love stone and try to emulate these people who have selfless love. Selfless love happens when you love yourself. When you have enough love for yourself, you have enough love for everyone, which I think is very interesting, because that is what the author says in the chapter Unconditional Love. It says, when your life is going smoothly, it is usually because you're satisfied with your job, your children are happy, and you're relating well with your friends, family, and spouse or lover. At this time in your life, it's easier to be loving, tolerant, and understanding of those who are less fortunate. There's room in your heart for the homeless on the street, or the child who comes to your door selling raffle tickets. I thought that was a pretty interesting observation. So one way that you can develop self-love, hanging affirmations around your home. in addition to working with your love stone. My friend who passed away last year, her name was Mama Moon, and she was in her 70s. When I visited her home, her entire home was covered in plants, and all along the walls were affirmations. Everywhere you would turn, there was an affirmation. You are beautiful. You are wonderful. You are magnetic. In her bathroom, her entire mirror was surrounded with affirmations. In her bedroom, when she woke up, the first thing she would see is an affirmation. If you place these around your home, on your refrigerator, in your car, on your wallet, and you just look at it every day, it'll absorb into your consciousness and increase your self-love. Also, listening to love songs and dedicating these love songs to yourself. Sometimes I'll listen to a romantic love song and I'll change the lyrics where it's just me talking to myself. It might be a man singing to a woman, and I'll just pretend it's a man singing to me or myself singing to me. One of the best ones that I can think of for self-love songs are church songs. Even though some people are like not religious, I feel like those types of songs speaking about the love of God can be used for self-love. Just imagine God being you and speaking life unto yourself. So some of the songs that I listen to often are Beyond Love by Beach House Musical Group, You and I by, I think it's Black Ivory, a lot of Motown songs about love, The Power of Your Love by Hillsong, and When You Really Love a Woman by Bryan Adams. I just love that song. And just a lot of R&B songs, and I'll just switch it up to make it target for me. Another chapter that she has is romantic love, and that chapter is called Attracting Romantic Love. She says, use your rose quartz crystal to visualize your perfect partner, this person that is coming into your life. What do they look like? What do they sound like? How does it feel when they're with you? What goals do you want to accomplish together? What does the future hold for you? Visualize these things and be clear. And not only that, when you're visualizing this, feel that you deserve it. Feel that you deserve this person into your life. Some people, they have a person in their life or the type of person that they want, and they feel they're not gorgeous enough. They feel they're not rich enough or smart enough. But if this person truly loves you, they'll love you as you are. So your goal is to become your best self so that you can attract this person in your life. Or imagine yourself as that person and what they're looking for, and become that type of individual that would attract that type of person. If you want somebody that's fit and is a go-getter, then you should try to emulate those types of traits. How can you be with someone who is fit when you're over here just like laying down? Like they might want to get up in the morning and jog. You should start getting up in the morning and jogging. They might like going to fancy restaurants. You should start taking yourself to fancy restaurants so that when that person comes, it won't be something completely new to you. It's already a part of your experience because you attract what you are. Another thing is you can use the rose quartz crystal to help mend relationships. When you work on yourself, there's only two things that'll happen to your relationship. It will either end or it will get better. If it ends, it's because you two are in a completely different vibration. This person might be trying to pull you down, and you are going upward. And because of these differences, you separate. The author Florence Scovel Shinn talks about how when, let's say, one spouse increases in their finances or increases in their career and success, and they're shopping at rich stores on 7th Street, whereas you're shopping at thrift stores on 3rd Street, you're living in two different thought worlds. And when you're living in those two different thought worlds, the only thing that can happen is you split. They might meet somebody on their thought plane. So if they are elevating, you have to elevate with them. If they are going down and you are elevating, you can't go down with them. They have to rise up with you, or else it's not going to work. Relationships are a spirit that need to be nurtured. And if you are nurturing a toxic spirit, you're only going to attract those toxic things into your life. The next chapter, she talks about love among family and friends. She speaks about forgiving your parents, forgiving your children, forgiving those who you feel hurt you. And in this chapter, I don't know if it's this chapter or another chapter, she has a list, creating a list of deprogramming your negative thoughts, creating a list of people you feel that have wronged you or that you have wronged, and forgiving those people and letting it go. Not holding on to that negative energy within you. For me, I made a list of people that I feel I've wronged or I had some type of conflict with or misunderstanding with. So I wanted to share a few of the people with you. The first one is my grandma, who we call Granny. And me and her did not have a good relationship. Like, I really didn't like her. And I didn't feel any connection to her because I felt she was so mean to me, like calling me names and wouldn't let me go outside, and like just saying I would die in car crashes and plane crashes and just all of these things, like filling my mind with fear. So because of that experience, I just really disliked her as a child and a teenager, and I just didn't feel any type of connection with her. But the reason that she was like that was because she had some tragedies in her life. Like, the reason she was fear-based was because when she was a child, her siblings died in a house fire that was caused by her brother and her, like, playing with matches. They were little. So I feel that she felt that guilt and that fear that something would happen to her children. So even before I was born, she would try to keep all of her children with her. Like, don't go here, don't go out of town, don't go over here, something will hurt you. And because she had that fear, it came across as being mean when it was actually her only way of expressing love and care. So I feel guilty that I didn't really connect with her like that. And it's something I regret. Like, I wish we would have been nicer to each other. Another is my dad. I've never been the type where I'm like, I hate my dad, he was never there, or oh, I just dislike him. I didn't love him, but I didn't hate him. It was almost like a stranger. And I just feel guilty that I didn't make enough effort to try to speak with him, because we had this thing where we would avoid each other. It was uncomfortable. We didn't know how to approach each other because maybe on his side he felt guilty as well. So I feel pretty bad that I didn't put enough effort in like talking to him or having a heart to heart, because like at this point it's hard having a heart to heart with a person. It makes me feel vulnerable, and I'm trying to get over that type of thing. Next person is Mr. Johnson, who was one of my ex's dads, and I was supposed to write his life story because he had been in Motown. He had worked with all of these artists, and he was in the process of dying, and he asked me to write his life story. And I basically ghosted him because I felt it was inappropriate, for my ex at the time was engaged to somebody, and I felt I was stepping in an uncomfortable field. But I wish I hadn't been so selfish and had just put aside all of those other things and had written his life story that now he won't even be able to tell because he's passed away. But I forgive myself for doing that. I let go of that guilt and take it as a lesson to do better in my life. So if these stories resonate with you, if this person is still alive in your life, I would suggest that you have a talk with them, So you won't have any types of regrets. Even if they yell at you or you look like a fool to them, it doesn't matter. This is for your self-development and your self-love, you know? So, yes. The next person, and this will be like, I have 2 more people. The next person is my old boss's ex-wife. And I feel guilty about that because I feel like I caused their divorce. I felt I was being like sexually harassed at work because my boss was writing me outside of, not my current boss, my ex-boss. Because my boss was writing me outside of work and sending me messages on Facebook, but I couldn't detect if he was flirting or if he wasn't. And in a text message, he stated he wanted to like divorce his wife, and I said, don't do that. And this led to a whole big misunderstanding because she thought I was talking to her husband, which I really wasn't. I was actually, he just put me in this really strange position. I said, don't divorce your wife. Like, she's a good wife. Like, why would you do that? So now, like, that whole section, family hates me and I guess paints me as a homewrecker or whatever. But I just feel so guilty because I should have just said, hey, don't tell me these things. Like, I should have been aware of my boundaries instead of trying to fix it by saying, don't divorce your wife. So I feel guilty about that I feel like I broke a family apart. And the last person is a guy I was involved with somewhat. And I didn't want to be seen with him because we were from 2 different worlds. I was more library girl and he was more out in the streets. So because of these things, we were very toxic to each other, and I would undermine him a lot because I felt, I'm just like, you're out in the streets and I'm over here, like, what are you doing? So I wouldn't date him, and he really liked me. He wanted to start something with me, and I really liked him, but I didn't want to be seen with him. I didn't want people to see us hugging, and I've just used really mean words with him because I felt we were in 2 different worlds. And one of the last things I told him was that he was really stupid, that he said something that was the stupidest thing I had ever heard because he almost got shot. He almost got shot, and I felt my life was in danger. And I said, you almost got shot. And he said, it was just a little gun. I said, it was just a little gun? You're a complete idiot. So out of all of these list of guilty things in my life, which I have a whole ongoing list, I'm letting go of this guilt to practice being better. And if you are a person that is holding on to guilt, let that guilt go. Because if you don't let it go, it's going to come up, it's going to show up in your life. It might show up as a disease. It might show up as you sabotaging a beautiful relationship. Let it go. Let it go. So that is all I have to say about that. If you are working with the rose quartz crystal, I would suggest working on it as much as you can for maybe a month to 3 months and see how your life is affected. I hope that my story or my stories didn't seem like rambling and that you could connect to them in some type of way. Practice self-love, practice self-worth, and always live in a state of love. So thank you all for watching this video and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.